All right, everybody, we are live for this week's episode of the Safely Extreme podcast, where we discuss game design and game dev topics. I'm, of course, Josh Blazer from Game Wisdom, and joining me, my co-host from Nexus Games, Sharky.
Hello, everybody. I've never been here before, and who are you?
Right now, it is a very miserable, rainy-filled day over here on the East Coast. How's it where you're at?
It's a very, very hot weather compared to what it's been. Just I think it was yesterday. It was like 30 degrees, and like the day before that, it was like 10 degrees or something. But today, you know what it is? 75.
Oh, jeez. And over here,
or it'll probably be 90 or 100.
And we got like 4 or 5 days of rain coming up too, which is great.
Yeah.
Huh? It's not like I'm going anywhere, right? We're all still stuck inside. It's just added reason.
I mean, maybe it's more reason to go out. Because, I mean, you can go out and play in the rain while, everybody else is staying inside. Because, you don't have to worry so much about the virus.
But for today's show, we're going to be discussing the first steps of how to get started with a game studio. And we've kind of spoken about little bits and pieces of this in the past, and we're going to see what we can get through tonight. But before we get there, I guess some brief news. We are knocking on, I think, 7,200 subscribers here on the Game Wisdom channel. So hopefully by the end of the stream, maybe we'll hit that. And thank you to everyone who has been subscribing. Work is wrapping up, ideally, on my 4th book. I have, I think, just about like 12 or so days left to get it all done. And about 1.5 chapters left to write. So we're going to be burning the midnight oil, I guess, for the next few nights. Or extra burning the oil to get it done.
Yep. And over here on my side, I'm knocking on 50 subscribers.
There you go.
9 away.
Again, all you gotta do is make a video about how much you hate Sekiro and think Cyberpunk is overrated, and I think you'll get like 500 subscribers like in one night.
Probably.
But other than that, in terms of industry news that's going on this week, there's supposed to be, or there's rumors going around that Japan Studio, one of Sony's like longest running companies, that they're slowly but surely closing the place down, which is definitely a shame because I know they've been like very like instrumental with a lot of the stuff with Sony over the last like 20 or so years.
Yeah, that's not looking good for the studio or for Sony for that matter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it sucks when we hear about like long-term companies like that being phased out.
Yeah. I care more about the studio than I do about Sony.
Yeah.
Sony's certainly been burning the candle from like 15 different directions.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure what the studio's done, but it can't be any worse than what Sony's done. That's for dang sure.
Let's see. Other news this week it has been officially announced that Anthem, BioWare's failed attempt at a live service third-person shooter or RPG visual novel,
early access.
There you go. Has had its post-release content or post-release support officially cut. So the game is being, I guess, left out or going out to greener pastures right now.
And who could have seen this coming?
Everyone?
Pretty much, yeah. The writing was on the wall. The second they failed, and they were like, "Oh, we'll fix it in post," in like a year or two.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys buy all the copies, you don't buy all the copies. Well, okay, we're canceling everything.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Chris. Yeah, Looter Shooter as well.
We're happy with the crappy game we gave you because we didn't put much into it, and we're happy that we got more than enough money for that crappy game. So you don't want to give us more money for the crap? Well, we're not going to put more money into the crap.
And definitely a case again of, I guess, the BioWare magic failing. They rolled a 1, I guess you could say.
They've been rolling a lot of wins lately, as has all the AAA's kind of thing. Question is when will we be saying the same exact thing about Stadia?
Don't know. Probably very soon, right?
I'm suspecting the next 3 months. 3 to 6 months, maybe longer than that. I don't know. But they've already, like several games have already been canceled going there. Google has already said that they're not going to support it going forward, and when's it actually get that official death nail in the coffin is the question.
Yeah.
There's still like Stadia ads everywhere. Still trying to sell their crap. Crap the same way Anthem did.
You never played it. I just heard too many bad things about it to stay far away from Anthem. Let's see. In terms of other arguably questionable franchise killing news, I know Alien fans are up in a tizzy because the Xenomorph is in Fortnite now. Shark, all you need to... there's the other way for your success. Just get a Sharky avatar in Fortnite and you'll be famous.
What if I get like a Neon Continuum avatars in there?
Yeah. But remember, you have to put yourself in the game, too.
I gotta put myself in there?
Yeah, remember they wanted you as the card shark?
Oh, yeah. I thought you meant in Fortnite.
There you go. Yeah, that's what this all means.
Yep. He's going to be the next ninja.
I'll be the ninja of Resident Evil game because I played them all.
No, see, to be a ninja of that, you have to, play it every day, all day. You gotta have at least a 12-hour stream every day where you play Resident Evil all day.
I only even play the games that I really, really love 12 hours a day every day at this point.
Yeah.
No, I did not hear about it, but there have been big announcements. Of course, BlizzCon thing. Did that happen last week or this week, BlizzCon? I've lost track. We've lost all track of time and space here.
I'm unsure.
Yeah, and that is weird. And then, of course, Square Enix had their big reveals. People have been talking about Bravely Default 2, and I don't know why. Because that game came out already, right? I played it.
The first one did. I don't think the second one did.
Well, I played a sequel to Bravely Default, I'm pretty sure, unless I'm hallucinating.
I think you might have played a game that was similar to it. And not actually Bravely Default 2.
Oh, jeez. Thank you.
I know you played a game similar to it. I just don't know about Bravely Default 2.
Because I'm pretty sure that I own 2 games from the Bravely Default franchise.
Maybe it was a spinoff.
Oh, jeez. And does this mean I'm going to have to play the the Kingdom Hearts when they get released onto Epic?
Probably.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Oh, God, indeed.
It's a 3-game series stretch out to what, like 20 games now?
20 or 30.
Oh, goodness.
And the plot does not even make sense. Even those who are deeply into the plot. Because, apparently a lot of stuff is retcon changed and everything, every, single game kind of thing.
Is still Mickey Mouse like the Goku of the universe? That's all I need to know.
Well, he's like Goku in the hyperbolic time chamber or something, because he's never around until the last second.
Okay.
Win without him.
Here it is. I love the Wikipedia article for this. A third entry in the series is called Bravely Default 2. Thank you, Square Enix, for your naming conventions there. That's not safely extreme. That's just Not counting numbers right.
That's extremely extreme.
So it was called Bravely Second is a sequel, but because it didn't do well enough, they decided to just pretend it never existed, and they're just making the new one Bravely Default 2.
Ah, yeah. That's what I remember.
Good. I thought I played a second game. I'm glad that my memory isn't going that badly.
So you did play a spinoff though,
Mm-hmm.
technically.
So there is a Bravely Default 2, so it's on the Switch. I'm sure it's what, $60 right now to buy it though?
Well, if it's on the Switch, yeah.
Let's see. Oh yes. Wow, and I completely tuned out until people were talking about it this week. Oh, the new Persona game came out as well. Persona 5 Strikers. Which at some
No,
point I should go back and try and finish Persona 5. You know, that's only a 2-hour game.
and you can't actually finish it on the stream.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, because Atlas will ban it too.
Yeah.
And
And BlizzCon is always disappointing, extremely disappointing.
not
Even with Diablo,
safely disappointing.
I don't know, it's always extremely disappointing. It's because like it's BlizzCon, ran by Blizzard. Don't you have a phone? I mean, like anybody with a phone would know that
Mm-hmm.
because they would have got a text that told you BlizzCon sucks. Don't go to it.
Let's see.
And Blizzard sucks. You know,
So they've
it's sad
announced.
that they didn't used to suck,
Mm-hmm. So
or maybe it's sad the other way around. I don't know.
yeah, so the only news that I heard people getting somewhat exciting about is the Diablo 2 remaster, not a remake. They've made that explicitly clear.
hmm
Eh,
And the thing is Diablo 2 was a very awesome game. So like,
people are going to buy
I,
it.
I'm actually interested in checking that out because that's one of my favorite games of all times. Although I am not buying a Blizzard game, so if I check it out, it's
You kind of have there's a contradiction there.
yeah, I'm definitely not going to buy it. You know, but if I do check it out, it's not going to be paid for.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it would be interesting. The fact that you can actually play Diablo 2 modern without all the crazy hiccups of the original is certainly going to earn them some money. But again, Blizzard is this is modern day Blizzard, not a past greatness Blizzard.
Yeah, I just wonder, you know,
Yeah, probably
if,
Alredo.
if they're going to really screw up Blizzard Diablo 2.
Yeah, because the Warcraft 3 remaster was pretty bad.
Yeah. I hear it's not actually Blizzard that's actually working on it, but an actual decent studio.
I think it was the developer who did the Tony Hawk remaster,
I think it was too.
which kind of sucks. I want them to continue doing more remasters.
Well, they are doing more remasters.
Oh,
Remasters of Diablo 2.
non-Diablo remasters.
Yeah.
That to be more specific there.
I'm pretty sure the breaking point was before Diablo 3, but Diablo 3 was a reflection of that breaking point.
Mm-hmm. Your backlog is infinite now, Chris. What do I call my backlog now? Lovecraftian?
My
Cyclopean backlog? Oh god! And speaking of which, I had like 20 more games from the Fanatical bundles this week too.
Yeah, I think I bought like 20 games on there. Of course, I only claimed like one key, and then I put rest of them into the notepad file to, you know, like if I need to give away keys or something, I'll just put it, you know, grab a key from here, you know,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and, you know, just, you know, I was like, yeah, I'm not putting all 20 of these games in my library because I am only interested in one. And, you know, the only reason why I got that one is because, number one, the bundle, this quote unquote $300 bundle that, you know, I think the one game is worth more than that entire bundle. And that's only like a $10 game or something, you know, that the whole bundle was like $3 and I had like a 10 or 20% off coupon for it. So like I got it for like, 270 or something, 260, 250, somewhere under there.
Mm-hmm.
And it was it was the other copy of Gymcraft, which I just seen that question as I was answering it. It was an earlier version of Gymcraft, not the latest
Yeah.
one that I already have, but an earlier version that I do not own. And I was like, yeah, that's worth $3. And I don't care jack about the other like 20 or 30 or 40 games in that quote unquote $300 bundle.
Mm-hmm.
And that $300 bundle I think was worth about, I don't know, $5.
Yeah.
And then I paid, $3 for it.
Mm-hmm. Oh my.
But I didn't add the other 19 to 39 games to my backlog. That just that's on I added that to the spreadsheet of games to give away.
I did hear about that game, Chris. I have not checked it out. I've heard a few people say it sounded interesting. Yeah, and I still need to play Octopath at some point. Oh, I did hear, speaking about Square Enix, that it has been leaked that the new Monster Hunter game for the Switch will be going to the PC, I think, in 2022. So I'll probably wait and pick it up there and enjoy all the comforts of a solid state drive to play a Monster Hunter game.
Yeah. Well, Chris, why didn't my last game have your attention then? The old word of the day, Chromia.
I don't think he knew who you were back then. You need to get good at getting famous in the past.
Yeah. Good thing I invented a time machine recently for Neon Continuum for the time travelers to use in that game.
Nice.
So now I just need to get famous, and then once I get famous, then I travel back in time using that time machine I made, and then I can get famous in the past.
There you go. But other than that, I think very quickly to wrap with the BlizzCon news, I know they announced more about Overwatch, and again, like Overwatch just did nothing for me.
Yeah, you mean Overwatch 1.5, 1.2? Yeah. The first one, I was slightly interested when it was first coming out, and then I realized it was a first-person shooter, and I was like, "Yep, all interest gone."
But I think with that, let's get to our main topic. And that will be discussing essentially how to get started with forming a game studio. And this, I think, this could either be very long or very short, depending upon what we kind of ramble on into for today. But we'll see where things go. And what we're discussing is, let's say you've been a hobbyist for X amount of months, X amount of years, you release a few games, and you're now ready to take that step into forming a company. And for some people, this may seem like nothing has really changed. Especially if you've already worked with a few people, you've, done a few projects together, etc. Or this could mean a world of difference for you.
And the correct answer is the second one. So if you're fooling yourself into believing the first one, you're in for a world of hurt.
Yeah. And this is, I think, where a lot of first-time developers tend to get way in over their heads on. And we've seen this many times in the past, where somebody in high school or college, they immediately go from college to, I'm forming my own game company, and I'm going to release a game in 2 years. And while there are certainly exceptions to this rule, it is so much more complicated and challenging when you are considering building yourself up as a studio as opposed to being a hobbyist / solo developer.
Yeah. And I think the first part of this, what we need to tackle is based off of a question we got earlier this week. And that's, if you're releasing a game onto a storefront, should you be a sole proprietor or register a gaming company LLC?
Mm-hmm.
And the short and great answer on that is it depends.
Yeah. Yeah, but like
But
for
go ahead.
I was gonna say is like for myself with game wisdom, even though I'm technically calling myself a business or game wisdom is my brand. I still file taxes. I still do everything as a sole proprietor. Like I don't have an LLC or any like trademark when it comes to this. Which
You're a sole proprietor.
yeah, and that's another building off what Shark was saying. That's another big point about it depends because every
Mm-hmm.
state has its own laws regarding taxes you pay on property. Whether you file as a business or as an independent, and if you don't do this, guess what? It will come very much back to bite you when it's tax time.
Mm-hmm. And so every state, every country, everything has its own laws. So the when you look into this, you have to do research in your area and find out what comes with being a sole proprietor, what comes with being an LLC, what comes with being a corporation, which you probably don't want to do, but what comes with a S corp, which is a corporation it's like a corporation crossed with the LLC. What about a C corp?
Mm.
What about a INC? And like there's so many different ones, and they're very, very different in every place because, like, the INC here in my state is closer to an LLC in another state. And,
It's always
and
fun, right, to deal with this stuff.
oh, yeah, absolutely. And basically, when you're looking into this, if you are the slightest bit confused, I would consult a lawyer.
Yeah.
And I would consult a lawyer or an accountant that has absolutely nothing to gain from the consulting, because I've consulted lawyers in the past that were with the company that I was signing up through,
Oh,
and
there's no
they
conflict
told
of
me,
interest there, right?
yeah, they told me some absolutely screwed up stuff, and I'm now paying probably $5,000 because of that.
Mm-hmm.
You
And
know,
I think we should also elaborate and say check with a lawyer is probably the default answer to a lot of the questions and topics we're going to be discussing in our show today.
yeah. But let me give you an idea of what a LLC or sole proprietor would be.
Mm-hmm.
This is, of course, going to be very different in every state, but we're going to kind of do some roundabout generalizations and some specific stuff about my state, kind of thing. So, since I only have experience doing it in my state, so when you have a sole proprietor, that means generally it means whatever income your company makes goes onto your social security number, and it counts as job income. And if you're working in a team, this can get rather hairy because now you're basically unless you have a way to file taxes differently, and you may, depending on your state, but by default, you would be paying taxes on everybody's income all rolled into one, and your income, the company's income, and the income that you pay your people. And then it'll be retaxed when you pay your people, and then retaxed because they received that money, and then retaxed when they go to spend that money, and retaxed when you go to spend that money. So it's this extra layer of taxes that could completely screw you over, but it could not, depending on what state and country you're in, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
When you're talking about registering an LLC or an INC or any of these other things, basically that gives you for protection to a point to where if something happens, they can't sue you in general. They can sue your company, but they can't sue you, meaning that if you got $1 million sitting in the bank account and your company only has like, $10 kind of thing, the only thing they can go after is that $10. But, that's generally not an issue because, I mean, we as game designers are not, number one, trying to do really bad stuff and get sued. Not to mention, I don't think we can technically do anything besides stealing stuff, and stuff to actually do anything legal about posting a game on the internet. Because as long as you're posting a legitimate game that you made, you didn't steal anything from it, there's not anything really that you can be directly sued for, kind of thing. I mean, a corporation can come after you for, because they don't like the fact that you use Sky in the name, like Sky News or something stupid like that. But anybody can file anything stupid against you at any time. So, be aware of that, But we're talking about like legitimate things, like, for legitimate things, as long as you made a legitimate game and didn't steal anything, the protection's pretty mute,
And speaking about building a game, another point that I think is very important to discuss is when should you actually start to prepare and start to, officially call yourself a studio. Because I remember, like, I think this was like early mid 2010s. I was with a bunch of like local enthusiasts, and we were trying to get together to build like a prototype for a game. And one of them, before we even had any code down, was like, you know what? I want to file. Let's get our trademark right now. We can pay for it. Maybe I can take out a little bit of office space. I'm just sitting there going, we don't even have like one thing on screen yet, and he's already wanting to, file an LLC and make ourselves official.
Yeah, not a good idea.
Yeah, and again, part of this conversation is thinking about taking that step when it is time to officially call yourself a studio. And as we've said, a lot of this is really going to depend, A, on where you're at in terms of your skill set and what you've been able to put out. And again, B, what are the laws regarding this in your state? And like we've said, the default answer for a lot of these things we're talking about is ask a lawyer. And again, Sharky and I are not lawyers, so do not take anything that we say as legal advice here.
And to, get into that kind of thing, when you register an LLC, perhaps in my state, we'll talk about my state specifically. My state is one of the most harsh states in the U.S. So, it will likely be very different in your state. But in my state, when you register an LLC, you have to pay, I think if I remember right, it was $500 to file for I think it was $700 for the initial filing. And when you file, you have to have a company account linked to that, which to start up a company account in my area, the bank I went to, requires a minimum of $1,000 to start it up. And if you do not have at least $2,000 into the account, then they will start nickel and diming you every single month. And by nickel and diming you, I mean like they're charging you, I think like $50, $100 every month to keep your account, as long as you don't have $2,000 in there. So at this point, I had to put $2,000 into that account and could not touch it. So, that's like $2,700 at that point. And, then I had to file a bunch of other stuff, and I cannot remember how many things I filed, but there was probably like $200 here, $500 here, $300 here, $100 here, $200 here. There was a bunch of, bullcrap, basically. I had to file and, get everything right and all this other stuff. And, then after that, once I started the LLC, that got the LLC for me. Every year, I had to renew it. And the renewal costed, I think in my state, $500. Plus, I have to have a registered agent that I have to pay a fee for, which is $100 a month. Which, from my understanding, a registered agent does absolutely nothing. Because I became my own registered agent like 3 or 4 years ago, kind of thing, paying myself $100 a month, and I have done literally nothing. Because apparently the only thing it is basically putting a name there. That is all it takes, is basically a name from, everything that I have seen going forward. And basically it's a name and remembering to pay your stuff. Send you a reminder to pay your bills, and that's it. And even if you don't remember, I mean, you will remember because it's tax season, so it's time to start, filing your taxes, kind of thing, and that's when your renewals are. That's pretty much what it boils down to, from my understanding of it. And that's $100 a month, kind of thing, until you take it into your own hands. Which there were several months several years before I actually took it in. So that was several $100 wasted. And then on top of that, every state has different laws. But my particular state, it says that even if you did not even have a product for sale, even if you did not have anything, you have to file taxes. Because they're going to charge you $100 on your taxes because you have an LLC. It's a LLC fee on your taxes every year. So that's like $700-800 a month that you have to pay every year to keep your LLC going. And here's the thing, is if you want to close your LLC, if stuff goes wrong and you want to close it, kind of thing, not only do you have to make sure all your taxes and everything else is, right and good, because they won't approve you to close it. They won't let you out until you're paid up.
Yep.
They will force you to stay in as an LLC, because they did that to me. And because I did not know about the minimum $100 to file taxes. Because I got advice from a lawyer in another state that says, yeah, you don't have to do that. Because you didn't in his state, but
that's another really big point to clarify. If you do move or you change your state, you should consult a lawyer of that state, because, as we said, just as every law is different, the lawyers will only know the law irrespective to the state that they're in. So if you're in Pennsylvania, for instance, and you move to, I don't know, California, the law may be a little bit different in that move.
Actually, you probably need to talk to two lawyers, one from each state.
Oh, yeah, if you're transferring, too.
Yeah.
Don't you love the legal system, people?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I love how it's different in every state.
The legal system is, I think, the true soul-like of this country right there.
Yeah. But, you have to, renew it every year. Now, there's some states where you pay $50 one time, and that's it. You're done. And there's some that's like $50 a month. Some like mine where, it's, horrible upfront cost and horrible every year cost, and, mandatory filing taxes every year, even if you don't have anything to sell. And, it's just this horrible minefield that you will have to navigate, and you will pretty much need a lawyer or an accountant in dealing with this, because unless you are a lawyer or accountant, I would highly suggest having one on your side if you're going to LLC or do anything that's not a sole proprietor. And even if you're a sole proprietor, I would still suggest at least talking to one time. One or the other. I think an accountant and a lawyer would be pretty much the same value in this kind of conversation. But but again, go with one that does not have anything attached to it. Don't talk to a lawyer at a lawyer that's going to register your LLC. You talk to a lawyer in another state, or not another state, another place in your state, because you don't want any conflict of interest, because where conflict of interest happens, that's when you get screwed, because that's when I got screwed. When I was talking to a lawyer with the company that I was forming the LLC with.
Mm-hmm. And I think getting back to what we were saying a minute ago about how they're going to charge you regardless of if you have a product or not, I think that's a good point, again, to kind of talk about when should you establish yourself as an official studio. Again, when we say official studio, hold on one second, we don't just mean you're calling yourself, I don't know, Game Maker Extreme, and getting business cards printed out. We mean, as we've said, establishing yourself as an official company. And this is, I think, another very hard point for a lot of people, because some will just assume, okay, I have a game idea, let me start a company. Or somebody else will say, yeah, I made a few game projects, nothing ever sold, let's take that step into the big leagues. So, I guess for you, Shark, what do you think is like the big point somebody should be thinking about when they say, okay, let's make this official?
Well, it depends.
Of course. That's the other standard example, or a standard answer. Consult a lawyer, and it depends. That's all. That just answers all the questions people ask us for today's episode.
Pretty much. So just get ready to just talk to a lawyer. It depends, and we'll just copy and paste that every time somebody asks a question.
There we go.
But when to start it, when you're starting a company, you need to, start it seriously. Before you have an idea, before you actually start working on the game, if you're not doing a solo developer, which is not a good idea, we've talked about that before.
And again, when we say solo, we don't mean you work on the game by yourself and then you contract out the game to 20 different temporary people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're talking about solo as in you're the only person who ever works on the game. Mm-hmm. Which is not advisable. But if you're not solo kind of thing, you need to be thinking about money that you're going to be paying your outsourcers. You need to be thinking about, money that you're going to be paying your team members and whatnot, and all this stuff. And the team member stuff needs to be written down in some kind of contract before you even start, because I have seen so many games that 3 or 4 friends decide to start working on it, and then one screws everybody over and says, I'm not going to work on it, but you promised me a lot of money, so give me a lot of money, kind of thing.
Ooh,
and
yes.
The game never gets done, and the game dies permanently.
Yeah, and that's another important lesson. When you're consulting a lawyer about setting things up, you also need to get some kind of contract written up as well. Especially, again, if you are working with a group of people and there is money involved, which most likely that's going to be about 100% of the case for a lot of these companies.
Yeah. So basically, you want to get something set up right away, basically, if you're working with team members. If you're not working with team members and you're just going to outsource stuff, you can skip that. You will still need, some kind of written agreement that you will give your contractors and whatnot, which, would be advisable to get from a lawyer. But they do have templates and stuff on the internet. But, again, do that at your own risk.
Mm-hmm.
The official advice would be consult a lawyer, kind of thing. But you need to get that stuff with teammates, that are going to be with you. You need to get that settled right at the beginning, before there is one line of code, before there is anything, before there's even a game idea.
And I know somebody watching this right now will be thinking to themselves, but we're friends, why do we need anything legally binding? We all love each other, and, we won't run into any problems. Again, as we've said, as we've seen many times over, money changes things for good and for ill. And and again, when we talk about this, about starting a studio and become official, a lot of that is going to be about protecting yourself. And that's what this is for. Because you don't want anything to, completely wreck a game, especially when it can be solved before anything gets out of hand. And contracts like this, it protects you, and it also protects the people you're working with. Because if you do anything bad, they can use that contract against you just as you can use it against them.
Mm-hmm. And you really need to get a lawyer in on that, because you need protections for if they screw you over.
Oh,
if they screw you over, then you get to kick them out. They get no benefits, and they may have to pay you crap, kind of thing.
And they lose their ownership over anything they did as well.
Yeah.
Oh yes, and like we said, we should just have a neon banner on this thing that just says "Consult a lawyer." That should just be plastered on our stream today.
A neon continuum banner.
Yeah, exactly.
The word of the day.
And what do you think about Chris's question about one-time outsource work?
Well, it doesn't matter. Outsourcing is outsourcing, whether it's one-time or continual. Continuum just means that it's one time that you then do again, and again and again. You're going to outsource somebody to make music for game A, and then you finish game A, kind of thing. They finish their contract, and you release that game. Now you're working on game B, so you're and you like the job they did, so you outsource to them again, kind of thing. I mean, that's perfectly normal if you're happy with each other's services, kind of thing. But the difference is outsourcing is very much different from a teammate, because a teammate means that they are going to be working with you closely. They aren't going to have one specific job. They may have one specific job, but that won't be their only job, kind of thing. Their job may be make music, but they're also going to be in with the music doesn't say their music is we need to implement that into code. Well, maybe they will go into the engine and implement the music into the engine, kind of thing. Maybe they'll come up with the ideas and the design for the music, kind of thing. Maybe the whole they'll be, there won't be any plans for the music, and you'll just be like, here, make the music, and then they'll go to it. Where, versus a outsourced work where it's like, I want, heavy metal music made for this section. I want, heavy metal music made for this section. I want heavily metal music that is, very sympathetic on this one, and all this other stuff. And for this part, and you need to be, as specific as you can with the outsourcer and a list of things. Where a teammate is working with you hourly or off of a contract, not a contract. Well, I mean, there will be a contract, but it'll be like a what do you call it when they're paid once a month?
Not salaried.
Yeah, it is salary.
Okay.
So they would be like salary work, if not hourly. Probably salary, meaning that they work whatever hours they put in, and they get the same amount of pay every month, whether they work 20 hours or 3,000, which in the case when you're working for AAA, it's at least 8,000 because they'll get you under salary and crunch the hell out of you.
Yeah.
But the thing is there's a very big difference there, because anyone on salary pay is a teammate, kind of thing, or normal hourly, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Not saying that, outsourcers can't do hourly, but, generally what they do is they say, well, this job is going to take me X amount of hours, so I'll charge X amount,
and
my
like
rate
that's
times.
it.
Yeah, and then that's the hard number. Or maybe it's a varied number based off of that, like a quote from like a contractor. When a contractor comes out to your house and says, you want to get,
this
a siding
done.
put on your house kind of thing. And the contractor will give you an estimate, and that estimate will be, we'll charge you, $20,000. And, down at the bottom, it'll say that it'll be within 10% of this, so.
Could be more, could be less.
Yeah. It could be, 10% less, or it could be 10% more.
Mm-hmm.
And even if it cost them, once you sign that and everything, they're bound by the contract. If it cost them $40,000 to do it, they can still only charge you the $20,000 plus the 10%, which would be what, $22,000. So they just lost $18,000 off of that. Which most contractors don't go off of that kind of thing. They don't do the 10%. Most of them just do the hard number kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You can also do, hard numbers based off of, tasks. Like, a popular one is we'll pay X amount of dollars per image that you do as an artist, or X amount of dollars per song kind of thing. And we need X amount of songs or X amount of images kind of thing.
Yeah. And about like pay and ownership, that's another very big point. Because for a lot of studios that start, especially if it's, 2 or 3 really close people, they may decide, how ownership of a company gets divvied out. Is somebody just the CEO and they have full shares? Is it, instead of paying you a wage, we're just going to give you, 20% or 30% ownership over it? And again, as with what we were saying for the last 50 minutes, it depends, and ask a lawyer about this.
Yep. And, it gets a lot more complicated having teammates from the beginning, especially from the beginning, or just period. It gets a lot more complicated.
Oh, yes.
But that complication, in the end, is worth it if you have a solid teammate. Because that is one thing you don't have to worry about basically ever again. Just pay out regularly, and you get good work constantly. And, it's arguable that, that when you're actually paying real money, that the salary pay would be cheaper.
Yeah.
But, again, it depends. But you don't have to ask a lawyer on that one.
And yet, and that is a major advantage. Because again, if you're dealing with like a freelancer or somebody who's temporary, they may say, oh, well, I just got a full-time job, I can't work on it. Or, I'm a little busy this month, can I delay it? If they are,
I've never had that told to me, ever.
If they are salaried or a part of your studio, then it's beholden to them to say, well, if I don't work on this, I'm not getting paid at all. And not only that, but if they do decide to try and screw you, it will hurt them so much more than it would hurt you. Especially if they sign a contract and they agree to your terms.
And,
Chris.
Of course you need, you would need a contract and terms for your outsourcers too, preferably. Again, you don't have to do this. This is not a have-to thing. This is if you want to be safe. And generally, you want to be safe. And, I have not been as safe as I should be, to be honest.
You've been more extreme.
Yeah. I've kept it safely extreme because I've done these roundabout contracts, but they're all just, things in writing on Discord with a screenshot of it. You know what I mean? So it's things in writing. All the basic terms are there. You do X, I pay X, and, here's what needs to be done kind of thing, and then, there needs to be clauses where, if they, disagree, if they, renege from it, they have to pay, they're fined or whatever. they lose rights to all their stuff, all that kind of stuff, that I have not included. But, I probably should, honestly. And I probably should also have it officially as a contract because that.
Oh. Are you still there, sir? Oh.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we lost you for a second.
Test.
Okay, yeah, I can hear you now.
Uh-oh.
Oh, are you still there? Hello? Uh-oh.
My dang.
Uh-uh.
Okay, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. My dang headset plug in for my case. I've got my new case. I've got to replace it. Okay, so where do we stop off at?
I think you were talking about paying money, and then it just cut out. Oh, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. Okay. Paying money about what though?
About I think regarding either doing it as a contract or as a salary. But does anyone know what Shark was saying just before things got cut off?
But you need to. It would be better to have things. You want things in writing as a bare minimum, but it would be better to have like official legal contracts.
Notarized, etc.
And I probably need to go that way myself, and I'm not that way. I just do it in writing with an agreement kind of thing, and it's honestly caused me a lot of problems. Still even with that. So I need to take a lesson from this and get official, legal contracts, or at least legal looking contracts at the bare minimum.
Yep. And yeah, you want a blood pack too. That's the extra step, but consult a lawyer on that one.
Yeah, and it depends.
So, I think getting back to kind of like the origin of your studio, think about the advantages versus just still working on your own. Like we've said, if you have no real intention of doing game design as a full-time job or wanting to, earn a living off of it, then a lot of what we're talking about is probably not going to be warranted. There are a lot of smaller and very, very, independent developers out there who they just make a game, in their spare time. They may do a fan game. They're not really thinking about this as a business.
They're not going to sell anything.
Exactly.
There's never going to be a price on that game. And when you have no price on a game, then you're not a company. You're a hobbyist. And when you're a hobbyist, none of this matters.
Yep.
You have the free and clear route of doing nothing. You don't need no contracts. You don't need no anything. You don't need anything. And
conversely, you don't need to worry about, paying people. You don't need to worry about salaries and insurance and, filing your taxes like this. And yeah, that is an option. Again, there are a lot of people out there who treat game dev as just, the spare thing they do in their time when they're not working or they're not doing what they really want to do.
And the difference, the where you cross that line is the second you put a price tag on the game. The second you put a price tag on that game, everything that we've talked about matters.
Yep, and again, that's where, and there's another topic we can easily segue into about the whole idea of art versus a product. But again, if you're selling your games for $0 or you're just giving it away, then yeah, it's art. You're not really thinking about things as a product point of view. But as Shark just said, whether it is $100, 99 cents, a penny, the second you are charging people to experience your content, it's a product. And it's going to be treated, reviewed, and criticized as such.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you like it or not as well.
Yep.
You can't
and
say...
You probably won't.
Yeah. You can't just say, you can't criticize my game. This is art. It's my $60 art project.
Oh, you could say that, and people will absolutely tear into you, and you will, you will come out the other side of a blender or a tree shredder kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So here's a hint for you: don't put any limbs near or into the tree shredder.
I don't think "it depends" would work as an answer to this one.
No. Talking to a lawyer might.
Mm-hmm.
Or a PR person.
Unless the lawyer is working with the wood chipper, then you may be in trouble there.
Yeah, that'd be a conflict of interest.
There you go. And again, you want to form a company or officially form yourself as a studio, when you have, all the legal details in check. B, when you have people. Like, you don't want to be forming a studio and then going, okay, who's going to work for me? It's good that you have, some trusted people on hand. And C, you need to be thinking about product. And that's another big point about the difference between a hobbyist and going into full-on production. When you're a hobbyist, you can spend all the time in the world working on your project. If it succeeds, great. If it fails, who cares? It's just you and your time. But when you become a company and you have people working with you and you have taxes to pay and overhead, spending 8 months on something that doesn't pan out is not a good way to earn an income.
Yeah, and you don't necessarily have to have a team starting out.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's better not to have, because the fact is if you have a team from the beginning, then you need that contract from the beginning to work with all the salary pay and all this other stuff. I mean, I myself right now am the only one on the team. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I have somebody who used to be on the team, is no longer on the team, but I'm the only one on the team, which makes me a solo developer in some people's eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Like the guy that made that Ninja Gaiden game, the solo developer with like 500 names in the credits. But I am a solo as much as he is, or even more solo than him, because I have far less people that I outsource to. But I outsource to people, and since I am the only team member, I don't have any need for a contract between team members.
Mm-hmm.
Because it would be a contract between me, myself, and I. And if I disappoint myself, I'm going to punish myself far more than any contract could ever do.
Which one of yourselves is the troublemaker?
Me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And as we've said, you can do a lot, starting out just by yourself, especially if you're trying to figure things out where you want to go as a company. But eventually, especially when you're ready to kind of step up in the big leagues, you need to have your ducks in a row, in a matter of speaking.
And by big leagues, we mean charging more than free for your game. And that includes microtransactions. That includes everything. The only thing that does not include is donations through Itch.
Or Patreon and stuff like that.
Yeah, but it could. Well, actually, it could if you're doing Patreon. Okay. Depending.
Yeah, and that's another point, because this is something I learned about Patreon, because I also have to file my taxes. That Patreon considers up to a certain amount of donations as simply donations or charity, and that is not taxable. I think, and again, And you should look this up yourself. I should probably look this up as well. I think it's like
$1,000.
20,000 or something like it's like $15,000 or $20,000. If you make that amount or more through Patreon, it is considered taxable wages at that point.
Is that per year?
Per year.
Yeah.
Because I did, when I had a lot of donations come in last year, I had to double check that in terms of how much I made, and I didn't. I think I still came in under that amount.
Yeah. It was all that drug money from Chad, wasn't it?
Exactly. And waffle money, too.
And all the $1 donations and $1.03 donations from Mojo.
Mm-hmm. All those pennies added up.
Yep.
Yep, and to Juan's point, yep, and that, again, we could probably spend a good cast or half a cast talking about how to vet people who you're trying to work with.
Mm-hmm. And I'm still learning that myself, because like, I vetted a person as best as I could. And, when I hired people, and there's been several times when I hired somebody and the next day they quit.
Yeah.
There has been so many people that I've vetted and everything. And, several months later, they still have not done anything.
Mm-hmm.
And, the issue is that you technically, unless you have somebody else with you kind of thing, there's no way to basically 100% vet anybody, because you can't vet somebody on programming skills if you're not a programmer yourself. You can't vet somebody on art skills if you're not an artist yourself. You can't. So basically you need to either be everything or have everything already to be able to get anything. So like, truly vetted.
Mm-hmm.
So like, that pretty much screws it over pretty much everybody.
Yeah. And again, this is where we get very cynical. That you can be the best of friends on Monday and completely hate each other and never want to speak to you ever again by Wednesday. Or maybe even by Monday evening.
Yeah. And the thing is that often happens when money is involved.
Yep.
Because money is the number one way to ruin a friendship.
Mm-hmm.
Because, there are so many people that ruin friendships over money. Because, like, and you don't even have to be in a company with each other.
Yeah.
Ask somebody to borrow $20. Just from the act of asking them, you may not be friends anymore. How dare you ask me for money?
Mm-hmm. And this is why part of this point about being in a business is about being very, very clear and explicit that it is a business. That if I say that you do this job and I give you $200, I'm giving you $200. I'm not giving you $500. I'm not giving you $100. I am giving you $200 for this. Mm-hmm. And conversely, if you agree that you are going to make, 4 custom backgrounds for my game or anything like that, you need to deliver on 4 custom backgrounds. It doesn't matter if, you got pulled away from a job or your family's bothering you and you couldn't get it done. When you're in a business, you have to agree to the terms of your contract.
Mm-hmm. And there's something else that you have to worry about as the one issuing the contracts kind of thing. And this depends on state to state. It depends on a lot of things. Mm-hmm. But oftentimes, if somebody disobeys their part of the contract, you still have to pay them. Because you have to follow your part of the contract, even though they're not following their part of the contract, unless you have a contract that says that you don't have to do that kind of thing.
Yeah, you don't have a clause
may not be
there.
Legal depending on where you're at. Which, so like, even if, like they may not do the job, and you may have to pay them anyway. And then what you have to do is basically sue them for breaking the contract, kind of thing, to get your money, to have a chance of getting your money back. And you have to pay for the lawsuit and everything else. You have to pay all the court costs and whatnot, and you could potentially get that money back too, maybe. But the thing is if you don't pay them, then they can turn around and sue you, and you will be liable for not only paying them, but their court costs and everything, and they still don't have to do that work. So you can get royally screwed in doing this. So be prepared. Even if you have a contract and everything, you're still going to have to be able and willing to sue somebody for not following through with their contract.
Yep. And again, like, what we're talking about, we're not saying that the same former company, everyone's going to try and screw you and steal your money. But
a lot of people will have that motive.
And again, everything that we've said over the course of today, the ultimate goal is providing protection for yourself. And game jams are interesting, but part of this is also the long-term factor. And there's definitely, I know there have been talks and such about the psychology of mentally, committing to a 1 year, 3 year, however many year-long project, and the amount of stress and strain it put on you.
The thing about doing game jams is, if you want to make that into a commercial product, if it's really, really good, then you have to you have to get a contract with them. And fact is if they aren't willing to go on a contract, then you can't do that, because they own part of the rights of that game. And you can't make that game. You have to make another game on your own with another team,
And if you dare, and again, if you use any bit of their code in your new game, you're also liable for that as well.
It doesn't even have to be code. Like if you work with like 7 people, kind of thing, and you have a coder, a couple artists, musician, all this other stuff, and the musician is the one not willing to sign the contract. Not only still can't make that game. You can't make that game without that, with different music. You can't make that game at all. Because the fact is the artist will say that he had some kind of creative input on there that shaped the game, and you're now liable.
Yep.
And the thing is that's their word versus your word. And when it comes to your word versus their word, you're the company, you're the big guy, they're the small guy, they win. Pretty much all the time. So you'll be screwed. So, if everybody who made it is not willing to go commercial with it,
don't even bother. Just
that game is dead.
Yeah.
That game has no life. Now, you could do a game inspired by that game. But you can't do that game. You can't do a full version of that game.
Yeah, the shark is the big fish.
I'm the biggest of fish.
And again, if there's any students watching this right now, and enthusiasts, watching this recorded, we are coming off, very cynical, very depressing, I think, for this discussion. And again, a lot of that is just the reality of what it means to make a game. I talk about this in my presentation I give at libraries and schools, that it's not a magical time making a video game. You have to be doing the research about what is going to actually entail with this, or you could end up easily losing out big.
Yeah, or it's actually Bowerware magic. Now, Mike has a question, and I don't quite understand it. Do you understand that question?
About the activism?
Yeah, the creator controls the price unless it can be stolen. Is it because of the activism, i.e., anti-capitalist?
Don't know 100%.
I don't know either. Like, could you rephrase that question?
But while we wait for the delay there, when you do form yourself a studio and you're thinking about your game, another big point about this, Activision, thank you, is about being able to plan this out. And this is something I think for a lot of starting out developers that, it's a fate worse than death. Having to actually sit down and think, okay, how long reasonably can we do this? How do we keep track of everything? And it is something that you need to consider when building your project.
At least if you're doing a team. If you're doing outsourcing, you have far more freedom there. Oh, and something we didn't tackle earlier, and I meant to, was that basically, when do you file for an LLC if you're going to go that route, or an INC, or anything like that? And the question in general, it depends. But in my state, they charge by year. And, since I do not have a team and I just use outsourcing, aka I'm a solo developer to some people, even though I'm not solo at all, because there isn't a direct team that I have to worry about salaries and everything with. The best time for me in my state to file for an LLC or INC or S Corp, C Corp, or any of that other stuff is less than a year before I release a game, and preferably after February, because February, the renewal in my state is always in February. So if you start your LLC, February 27th, then February 28th, you're going to have to pay that $700 or something renewal. But if you start your company on, March 1st, then you don't have to pay the renewal for an entire year. It's funny how that one day will make all the difference, kind of thing. Just, and you want ideally to make sure that you will release the game before to get to the next February, because that's way you have to pay less renewals, kind of thing. So, it's cheaper. But, again, some states, have it where you pay one time and you're done. You just pay $50 up front and you're done. You don't have to pay anything monthly. You don't have to do anything anyway. And, that doesn't even speak for other countries, kind of thing. And, again, LLCs and C Corps and all that stuff is different in every state. Not to mention the rules that go with each one of them.
Yeah. And there, again, so much about this is really going to depend on what your own status is in terms of your projects, your own skill set, and so on.
And where you live at. And what you want and what your goals are. Yeah. Because all these things tax differently. Because, like, some, tax it where the tax comes up front, so that way when you pay it out to people, kind of thing, you get more money. Some tax it in the end so that you get less money, but it causes less taxes for the company. So the individuals get less, but the company gets more. And there's all different kinds of ways they tax things, and the orders that they tax things based off of what kind of, whether you're a sole proprietor, LLC, C Corp, all this other stuff, and all that stuff is different in every state. So like if the LLC taxes the coming in, in Tennessee, but taxes the going out in Nevada, and maybe even taxes the in between in Ohio, and maybe all kinds of different other things. Like everyone is different. So like an LLC for me in my state is completely different, probably completely different than an LLC for you in your state.
Again, the joys of the legal system.
They're like completely different things. Basically, it's like none of these things should have the same name. Because an LLC in your state is nothing like the LLC in another state. Because what's funny is there's probably literally a state where the LLC is in let's say state A is the exact same thing as the INC in another state, state B, which is the exact same thing as a C corp in state C. And then you look at the C corp, and it's like they just took and shuffled them around. They took the exact same thing and shuffled around the names between them. There's probably a case of that somewhere.
What's an LLC? Do you know the actual full term?
The name? It's a limited liability company. It's company, not corporation.
Okay.
At least as far as I know of. Corporation would be you would be like a C corp or S corp or something like that.
And I think to switch over to continue this conversation, like as we've said, once you become official, you have to
Facebook official.
What was that?
Facebook official.
Yeah, Facebook official. What Lickin' Leg? The Lickin' Leg channel. There we go. That sounds like a DMI channel, though, too.
Yeah, it does.
But once you start coming up with, so let's say you've come with your product, you have people working for you, you are ready to get going with everything. Where do you go from there as a studio? And part of that is being able to manage people. And again, ultimately one of the big things about going into running a studio versus being on yourself is the very fact that you have to manage other people. You need somebody there to know, okay, what are we doing today? What's left to be done? And how long, estimate-wise, is it going to take to get this all done? Because another way that first-time studios and indies fail is that they don't understand the management process. And like we've said many times over, a game development that ran flawlessly should not be taking 5 plus 10 plus years to get a single game out there.
Nope.
And I hate to say this, so I know there are developers who have probably watching this record who probably have spent that long or working that long on a game, but no, it just does not take that long if everything was working right.
Yeah. Now then, if you're a hobbyist and then you convert it into that's a completely different story.
Yeah, if you're working on this, part-time, like if it's just your side project that you do whenever you have, an hour to yourself, then again, disregard what we're saying. If you are running an actual studio, you are paying wages or, you're contracting people, and it is taking you 7 to 10 years, that is a major problem.
Which I'm sadly working towards that major problem. As we speak.
Yeah. And again, like Stardew Valley is one of those very weird cases because he originally started out just by himself, and then the project gained a lot of momentum. And we've seen stuff like that happen. Again, going back to the Game Jam examples, Forager, Super Hot, and I know there's other examples out there of games that it all started out just some crazy idea that then it just so happened people really wanted to play that, and now let's do it for real.
And Mike says a 5-year game would stand a better chance than a 5 to 12-month game. No, I would say a 12-month game would stand a lot better chance than a 5-year game. But a 5-month game, yeah, the 5-year game would stand a better chance, I think.
And again, it all depends on what is the actual work that's being done in that time.
Yeah, the normal and ideal game cycle would be 12 to 36 months, aka 1 to 3 years.
Yeah.
So 12 months is right there at the bottom of that ideal time.
And I think we should also clarify, we're not including AAA in this discussion. When you have, dozens, if not hundreds of employees all across the world in 2 to 3 different studios who are designing all the assets and all the work for these kinds of games.
Yeah, I mean, but maybe we need to include them because there's so many AAA studios that are coming here to listen to us and get our advice on how to make their games.
We're going to be hired by Blizzard tomorrow, right?
I mean, Bobby Kotick right now is watching this video right now, and he's like, these guys know what they're doing, and he's like, we're going to do what they say.
Yeah. And my voice is dying. 1 second. Whew. And I think to Mike's point, that's another very important thing to discuss. That success is different for every studio, and that is a very big thing to consider. That if you're making a game and it sells 500 copies, that may be more than enough to keep you running for another year or two. For somebody else, 500 copies means nothing. It could have sold, every one of those 500 copies could have sold and everyone loved your game. You're still going out of business.
Yeah. And that's exactly what happened with the last game that I released. Because it sold 127 copies, I think it was, which was not even enough to pay for the LLC stuff I paid for. Which was over $5,000. And, that was, I think, $1,400 gross, which means that Steam actually only paid me $700. So $700 with $5,000 worth of LLC cost and 3 years worth of development. That doesn't calculate out. That does not compute. If they were, and yeah, I mean that almost shut down my studio. I mean, it technically did shut down my studio, but because I am so stubborn and nothing can stop me until something can. I broke out my shark powers, went Ultra Instinct, and said, "We're making the next damn game."
Go to Laura and say, "I'm just gonna go Ultra Instinct," and see what they say about that.
Yeah, they said it depends.
Thank you. I don't remember, Pony. This was like 8 years ago.
But yeah. I mean, like my studio unofficially shut its doors when the last game failed. When Chromasia failed, I mean my studio unofficially shut its doors, and things vastly changed after that. And it was because of determination, some luck, and a tax bill that I still owe for probably about $5,000 right now. That is lording over me. That I'm able to even continue. And make Neon continue. And it's really hard and really causing a lot of issues. And the fact that development hell has struck this game to where I can't keep people hired, I can't get people to actually work when I do hire them. It's caused all kinds of issues, and hopefully it does not reach a breaking point to where we can't continue, because there is definitely that chance. And I am fighting every day to prevent that from happening.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard, and that's the thing you guys need to discover is it. This thing does not depend. It is hard.
Yeah.
It doesn't depend on It's going to be hard. Even if you get lucky, it's going to be hard. Even if you get horribly unlucky, it's going to be harder than hard. It's going to be super hard. It's going to be masochist hard. And that's kind of where I'm at now. I wish I just had, Josh's masochism so I would actually enjoy this masochism. But since I'm not a masochist, it is really, really horrible.
Mm-hmm.
Josh would be like a pig in a pig pen with my troubles. With his masochism.
But I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Again, in terms of running your studio or managing it, like we've said, and this is something that kind of is a connection to a lot of our previous talks, that you need people who can do the day-to-day stuff. We're talking, running the project, doing social media, the PR angle, and you will be needing somebody to balance your books as well. And again,
and I would suggest hiring an accountant.
Mm-hmm.
Like a permanent accountant. That doesn't mean you pay them every month or anything like that. But it's you pay them once a year. You go to them once a year, and they manage your books. And you still manage your books before that point, but you just do the simple stuff, just keeping the receipts, keeping all this stuff. You just turn it all into them at the end of the year, and they do your taxes and all this other stuff, because that's really, really valuable. And that would also be the person who would be really good to help you with your LLC stuff and whatnot. But you don't want to do that when they have a conflict of interest. So like, but when they don't have a conflict of interest, then you can do it. Like if you're paying them for the taxes and you're not going to go to them to get the LLC kind of thing, and you're just going to go to them to get advice on it, then they don't have a conflict of interest, because they don't have anything writing on you saying yay or nay to do an LLC, because you're not going to be paying them to do the LLC.
Thank you for the suggestion there, Chris. Exactly, Pony. Yeah, and again, as we said, a lot of this is going to be about doing the work and doing the research on how to get all this going. Even if you do everything right, you can still end up losing, unfortunately. As we've said many times before, what we talk about is mitigating the risks. It's, you're still playing Russian roulette, but it's 1 bullet versus 5 in the chamber.
Mm-hmm. So you'll have a 1 in 6 chance of getting a bullet in the head versus a 6 out of 6 chance of getting a bullet in the head.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, to Ratstail's comment about you don't do this for profit, again, that is part of it. doing that, thank you, Ogaro. But that people get in this game industry not to balance books and sit in business meetings and, console a lawyer on everything that depends on things. And
that depends.
Exactly. But at the end of the day, and I think I'm about out of topic, so I'll throw this over to you after this point, and then we'll see where we go. But at the end of the day, if you want this to be financially viable, if you are staking your livelihood, your home, your family, your business on whether or not your game succeeds or not, that's true, Chris, you have to consider this stuff. And this isn't just Shark and I saying this. I have spoken to developers like Jeff Vogue, oh no, I can't believe I forget his name. Jake Burgett, Cliff Harris. That like together they probably have like 30 to 50 years of experience making games and being in this industry. They have survived longer than a lot of other studios. This in spite of not making games that are as, I guess impactful or as commercially popping as what you would think. They have managed to survive without making an Among Us or making a Fortnite or anything like that. And part of that is understanding the business side of this. And that's where being a game studio comes in. It's about learning and figuring out that, yes, having my entire team go on break for 6 months while we relax and not do anything may not help us when it comes time to pay our income or pay our overhead at the end of this year. Maybe, doing some crazy experimental thing and spending the next 2 years on with no idea if it would even work is not good when we don't have any other money coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Jake himself has made several talks on this topic. And here's my final point, and this is, a very big one. The game that you want to make versus the game that you can make or that you should make are often two very different things. It may be, you may really want to make that one-of-a-kind visual novel open world first-person shooter Souls-like, roguelite, and you'll spend 15 years of your life to do it, and it may turn out to be the game that you love. But is it going to be the game that's going to keep your lights on? Is it going to be the game that's going to allow you to pay your mortgage? Is it the game that's even going to earn you 1 cent? I don't know. And sometimes making that game that it may not be as artistically fulfilling, but if it earns you enough money, enough experience so you can then go on to make that dream game, it may be worth it to put that dream game aside and make the game that you know, or at least you can reasonably assume, will earn you an income.
Yeah. I mean, this goes without saying. Don't ever start with your dream game, because that's the reason why they're called dream games is because you can only dream about them until you've achieved your dream. Until you are living the dream, you cannot make the dream game.
Yeah.
Until you are well off and you're in a really good position and you're like, we could have a complete failure and spend $5 billion on it, kind of thing. You're not in a position to make your dream game, basically. And you have to make games that are feasible and get to the point where you're living the dream with $5 billion you can just drop at a drop of a hat and waste before you can make the dream game.
And I think one's tip also works. Just have a rich relative die and inherit all their money. And then you can do whatever you want.
For once.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work, then you just wasted all that money and you're broke and living in a gutter. Now then, one thing I need to clarify from what Josh said, Josh was talking about how your home was on the line and everything. Don't ever mortgage your house or your car or anything else to make a game.
Again, and that's the Cuphead example, that they took a second mortgage out on their home to finish the game. But again, they had the backing of Microsoft at that point. But as we've said, there's always two sides to this. Cuphead turned out amazingly well. That studio is now, established for a very long time. It could have failed, and they could have all been homeless.
Yeah, they would have been literally homeless. They would have lost their house. And the thing is the odds are that they would have lost their house. Because the odds are that game would have failed. They were just, they did enough risk mitigation. They spun that, Russian roulette, and they only had probably only one bullet in those 6 chambers, kind of thing. And when they pulled the trigger, it was a blank. It was an empty one.
Yeah. And to Chris's comment, I don't believe they had a Kickstarter. They did that after Microsoft officially came on as the publisher for the game, and they decided to expand the scope about it.
Mm-hmm. Which is a lot safer position to be in.
Mm-hmm.
Because, but that doesn't mean that it's safe by any means. It is super risky and super dangerous, and they honestly shouldn't have done it.
Mm-hmm.
But they did. And the gamble paid off.
Yeah, and again, it is all about risks. I have Shark and I'm sure you guys watching this as well. You have probably seen several examples of your favorite indie companies, games or studios have made your favorite titles still go out of business. And it can happen. You can have somebody who made something horrible, something that should not have even came close to succeeding, blow up, and now they're living the dream at that point.
Yeah, like Flappy Bird.
Mm-hmm. And there is no, like we said, there are no set guidelines for this, other than it depends and ask a lawyer. That is set in stone.
Mm-hmm.
But
we need a stone now, like a gravestone that says it depends. Ask a lawyer.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. What Alberto just said. For a lot of people who don't think about this as a studio, as a business, they will often fail, even if they had that one-hit wonder. Mm-hmm. And again, I hate to sound so depressing, but I have seen this. And I've made a lot of posts about this, that if a developer gets lucky with the game, either A, they don't know why the game succeeded and failed, and they're going to have no amount of skill to understand in their next game, or B, they're going to just YOLO it, going, you know what, our last game did well, let's just, take all that money, we'll take out a few mortgages, and we'll get all this money together, and we're going to make the dream 15-year game, and then it fails, and all that goodwill and clout goes out the window.
Mm-hmm. The thing about the normal in the indie scene kind of thing is all the successful game developers that are established now, they failed really hard. They failed on the first game. They probably failed on the second. They probably failed on the third. Yeah, and it could have been the 6th, the 15th, the second. It could have been the 200th when they finally succeeded, kind of thing. And and then after that point, they succeeded on pretty much every game after that.
Yep, Scott Cawthorn of Five Nights at Freddy's. He was making games for about 20 years. And all of them were failures because you didn't hear about them. I didn't hear about them. And then he had Five Nights at Freddy's in 2014. And now,
every game since then has been a success. And part of that, there's two reasons behind that. Part of that is that you've actually learned from your mistakes and you know what to do now. And part of it is because once you're famous, kind of thing, it's a lot easier to keep on being famous. It's like moving a giant boulder. Once it's rolling, it's not only hard to stop it. It's hard to get going, kind of thing.
And this is, I think, another big point, because this is something a lot of people need to understand. Taking advice from established indie developers is not often the best way to go. Because what worked a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, is no longer relevant. And the reason why I say that is, they've told me this. Again, I spoke with Rami Ishmael about this. And he flat out said that if he would have made Nuclear Throne or a few of his other games today, he would be out of business. He wouldn't have a company. because nobody would be buying a game like that in 2021 or 2020 when I did it.
Yep. And a lot of people use Minecraft as, the
Mm-hmm.
sole example. Minecraft had shitty graphics, so my game can
Dwarf
too.
Fortress too.
Yep. Because those games succeeded long, long ago before there was any standards for graphics in the indie space anyway. There are standards for graphics in the AAA space, but there was not standards for graphics in the indie space.
Yeah.
The indie space was all about getting something new at that point and different and not AAA. And the fact is nobody cares about not AAA generally now. They're either into the indie space or they're into the AAA space or they're into both kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact is those that are into the AAA, the indie space or into both are looking for quality and, aesthetics and everything, which is not what they were looking for many years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And, things have changed. The marketplace is completely different. And, the old knowledge does not apply anymore. That doesn't mean that old developers cannot have some of the new knowledge kind of thing, because it depends, as usual, if they've kept up with it. And sadly, you can't ask a lawyer if they kept up with it.
Yeah. And again, you need to be able to consider this seriously. And why, when we see studios, and the studios that have succeeded, it's not about treating this as, high stakes corporate business, wearing suits all day and, signing contracts. It's about understanding that at the end of the day, if they aren't bringing as much money as they're putting out, they're going to run out of money and go out of business.
Mm-hmm.
And why companies like Clay, Kit Fox, there's another one I'm blanking on that's really popular. Devolver we could throw in as well. That you can certainly do experimental, crazy game ideas and stuff like that if you do the research and know that there is a market for it. Supergiant, I think, would be another really good one as well. Mm-hmm. That it's not a case of failing because your idea is too out there, but failing because you didn't understand what the market is. And this is what I talk about in my horror book. Horror games still sell, but AAA developers expect them to sell Call of Duty numbers, and they put Call of Duty amount of money into them, and that's not where that market lies. If you want, again, with Five Nights at Freddy's, that series did well for Scott. Did it pull Minecraft, Factorio, or Call of Duty numbers? Hell no. It certainly did not.
And did it have that kind of budget in it, though?
No, definitely not. And that's why we say that success is different. But at the end of the day, ultimately the goal of being in a game studio is to be able to keep running a game studio.
Keep your lights on,
Exactly.
And to do that means, you need to not necessarily invest the least amount of money, but you need to, not spend more money than what you think the game can possibly make. And you need to have realistic expectations on what the game can potentially make. You don't want to spend, $5 million on making an Avenger game, because there's no way that is going to make $5 million.
Mm-hmm. And likewise, if you make some crazy experimental game, and let's say you only need 40 copies of the game to succeed, well, you are going to have a much greater shot at earning an income compared to needing 2,000. Or, again, I'm bonkers about why EA said this, that they expected Dead Space 3 to make 5 million copies in 1 year. And to put that in perspective, Resident Evil 4, the most successful RE game, made 10 million over 16 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's all I have to say, because I feel I'm going to start going around in circles. So, any points that you want to discuss, Shark?
Well, if you're going around in circles, I have to tell you one thing.
Mm-hmm.
It depends, and ask a lawyer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But, the risk is something you definitely have to worry about, because you have to worry about how much you're putting in to how much you're going to potentially get out, kind of thing. And that is something that you have to do with reading the market and whatnot. And you will need to read the market no matter what. And you need to investigate and do your research into stuff, And that is going to cause all kinds of things to change in your game. I researched, card games. And you know what the thing I found out about card games? There's not very many card games out there. There's not very many at all. At least when you're talking about CCGs, not the, stuff like Slay the Spire and stuff like that. When you're talking about actual CCGs, there's not very many out there. Do you know why there's not very many out there? Because they require, large fan bases, at least large enough to keep you, making a set every 3 months kind of thing, because they expect a set every 3 months, basically. You have to, you need the large fan base to keep, that money rolling in, which means that you basically need it to be free to play so you can have that large fan base. And that means you need to monetize it in such a way that large fan base, the percentage of them that actually pay, is enough to actually support you going forward with the three, the 3 month sets kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore you need to, and then you need to think about their expectations. All of those free to play CCGs have amazing graphics. All of those free to play CCGs have extremely polished things, especially the card packs / loot boxes if you're referring to Hearthstone.
Mm-hmm.
If you're card packs if you're referring to the Magic the Gathering ones. And you have to look at that and realize that if I do not have extremely polished things, if I do not have if it's not free to play, if I do not have a model that will be able to get enough percentage of money out of people, if I do not have the an absurd amount of polish when people open the card packs or loot boxes, depending on which one you put in your game, or preferably not loot boxes, if I do not have the amount of polish all the way throughout the game, then what is going to happen to me is I'm not going to be able to achieve that fan base, and I'm going to fail, kind of thing. And the thing is knowing that, I went in there and be like, we have to have all these things, because if we don't have all these things, then the writing is on the wall already. It's already considered a failure. We have to have these things or else we fail. But even if we have all these things, we may still fail. But we have to have these for any chance.
Look at the MMO market as well. There aren't as many MMOs today as there were 20 years ago, because one, you have mobile games and free-to-play games that have kind of taken up that market, and two, you have World of Warcraft. And you know why a lot of companies didn't survive? Because they couldn't compete with World of Warcraft, and they expected World of Warcraft numbers without any of the amount of work, time, and content that goes into it. And like to Shark's point about Neon Continuum, if you're making a CCG today and you aren't even like half or even 3/4 of the same level of quality of life and UI UX design as Hearthstone or Gwent, you might as well just stop making it, because that is what people expect as the bare minimum. And
they don't care if you're indie or if you're AAA. And the thing is those CCGs are made by AAAs, which means that I am literally a shark, in the sharky waters, with all the with all the sharks,
Mm-hmm.
and I have to step up as the biggest shark and to be able to make it out of this alive.
Yeah, and to Chris' point, that's what we said. The market 20 years ago is not the same as the market today. And if you don't do your research, and that's, again, a whole nother topic to discuss, if you're not researching the genre that you're working in, you are, again, you are putting 8 bullets in a six chamber gun there.
Mm-hmm.
But,
and the thing is see, I didn't want to enter those waters. You know what I mean?
mm-hmm.
Because those are very, very dangerous waters.
Yep.
Very, very dangerous waters. They're the the almost guaranteed failure waters kind of thing.
Yep.
And they're the AAA waters. And I'm at as a very, very next to nothing budget, small, tiny, insignificant indie kind of thing. I am way over my head. That said, I have done every preparation, everything that I can to do this, because I decided long ago that this was going to be the game we were going to make, and this is what we're going to have to do in order to have any chance at success. And the thing is with our budget so low, it's still a very high budget kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Very high to meet anyway. Depending on where you're at in the field, this is either absolutely nothing or a lot of money, or because like to a lot of hobbyists and a lot of very starting out game developers, $5,000 does not sound like all the money kind of thing. And to those who are deeply involved in this space, $5,000 sounds like you haven't even started. You just you don't even have a concept yet.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where we're at, and it's absurdly low budget, low. And I've pulled out one miracle after another to be able to even get anything at that price rate. And the fact is the main reason why I was able to get it at such low price rate is because I'm doing a lot of the stuff myself, and I am outsourcing for a lot of things and finding people who are, willing to work for relatively low money kind of thing. Yeah. But I have designed the game to be low scope in order to where it's a very minimum amount of work for them, meaning that it's not like I'm asking for like a $500,000 job and only paying them, $1,000 for it. I've optimized the game design in such a way that it's like I get, $400,000 worth of quality, but it only cost like $2,000 or $3,000 worth of work, and I convinced somebody to do it for $1,000.
But I do need to get running. We are at 2 hours, so I think we'll wrap things up here for tonight. But yeah, again, a lot of this can easily segue into future topics and talks here.
Mm-hmm.
So, with that said, we're going to end things for our show this week. Thank you to everybody who's been watching this live or recorded. We will be back next Sunday around 4:30 ET. And if you want to catch our show reviewing indie game store pages in the inquiries, that is Thursdays at 3:30. I'll be back for our regular game streams. If you'd like to follow us, I am on Twitter at GWBicer. And Shark?
I have one last point.
Mm-hmm.
Would $5,000, which is an insane lot of money for some people, and nothing for other people, to make a game. Mm-hmm. Would that be safe way to stream?
Maybe. It depends.
Ask a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you can follow me on my YouTube channel, Nexus Games LLC. You can also come join my Discord where you can see all the neon continuums and continue to see the neons, and get to attend the dev chats where we show off all kinds of new stuff, which will be this coming Saturday on the 6th at 2 p.m. Central Time, and which is like an hour before this stream started, hour and a half because of Josh being late. But that's normal for Josh. But the you can also follow me on Twitter, all of this stuff. There's all kinds of links down in the description. You can go smash the lick button and lick the smash buttons and all that stuff. All the links to every platform that basically Josh and I are on are in the description of both Josh's and I video. So if you're interested in anything we do, then come lick the smash button on all of them.
All right. So with that said, come back for daily discussions on game design here and on game wisdom, where some of the art and science of games. And until next time, everybody, take care.
And see you on OnlyFans, apparently.